Committee. Today is Friday, January 25th. I am Mitchell Englander, the chairman of the committee. I am joined by no other members of the committee yet, but help is on the way. But there are certainly some lovely people in the audience, so thank you for coming this morning. With that, since we don't have a quorum as of yet, what we'll do is it'll be instruction from the chair on consent items, and when they get here, we'll ratify that. So we'll go ahead and clear the room on items 1, 2, 3, and 6. So if you're here on items 1, 2, 3, and 6, you are dismissed. We do have one public comment card, and we have two, one on items 8 and one on item, and there's no item, Thomas May. Is this general public comment? I'm going to give you a choice if you'd like. We legally don't have the ability to have public comment under the Brown Act without a quorum, so it doesn't technically count as public comment, but you're here now. And we'd love to hear it will be on the record. We'll love to hear from you. You could wait until others get here, or I'll take you now. Uh-oh. All right.
Councilman, before we proceed, items 1, 2, and 3 all have CA reports that came in.
We'll
Do you want to approve those?
Adopt those reports as submitted. Mr. May, good morning.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I was here several months ago and spoke before, you may remember. I'm back again because I actually was privy to an email that passed across my desk that gave me some concern about further reductions in communications electricians staff. Currently we've had some retirements. We're due to have a bunch more. They're still talking about reducing these people. These are the people that you will rely on in an emergency to restore your communication systems for your first responders when bad stuff happens. If those people are not there, then the functions performed by first responders will be impaired. And I keep seeing these reductions, and as a citizen and resident of the city, as well as an employee of the city, it gives me grave concern to see this keep happening. People seem to think that if they buy new equipment, you don't need to maintain it. And they buy a warranty and all the rest, and they think it's great, but that's not the actuality. Equipment fails, and currently what's happening is we don't have enough people to do preventative maintenance on any of our equipment. That's the backbone, that's the handhelds, that's the mobiles. What happens with them is they drift out of specification. It would be almost like you not doing an oil change on your car, and you're not changing your brakes and just going on a whim and a prayer, and finally your car's going to break. Unfortunately, with our system, as it goes out of specifications, people think their communications work, but they'll go into an area where it should work, but unfortunately, it doesn't work for them. And somebody is going to be wanting help, and it's not going to be coming because nobody's going to hear them. And this is my concern with this whole system. And I've spoken to your, was it Todd? And I sent him an email, and hopefully we can get together and talk about this more. But I wanted it to be on the record for future reference.
Great, excellent. Thank you very much, and thanks again for coming. Truly appreciate it. We have one other speaker card for general public comment. Mr. Weiss, since you were late arrival, I wanted to let you know that we actually isn't technically, according to the Brown Act, public comment because we don't have quorum. But since you're here, we're going to give you the option if you'd like to speak now or wait until we possibly have a quorum, and I'll keep public comment open until the end of the committee. I'll give you that choice.
Yes, no, I would accept your option 2.
You want to wait?
Yes, sir.
You got it, absolutely. So we'll go ahead and hold your card, okay? Terrific. We've got a couple items as well as we're going to go ahead and continue. We're going to continue items 5, 9, and 10 per the request from the departments and the movers of those particular motions, waiting for various reports back. Waiting for a new report on item 5. On items 9, we are waiting on and got a request from the mover of that motion as well to hold that pending another report that's coming out. So we're going to hold that for the next committee meeting as well as item 10, the mover of that motion, and waiting for additional information and a report back as well. So on items 5, 9, and 10, we'll go ahead and hold those for the next committee meeting. And we'll start with item 8 since there's a comment card on item 8.
Item 8, motion Buscaino, Englander, instructing LAPD to report relative to the efforts taken by the department to curtail hit-and-run incidents and what additional resources are needed to reduce the number of these incidents.
And on item 8, we've got one speaker card filled out from Eric Bruins. I'll give you the option if you would like to hear from the department first and then comment after, or would you like to make a comment prior?
I'd like to hear from the department first.
Absolutely. Okay. Item 8. Morning.
Good morning.
I'm joined by my colleague, the Honorable Council Member from the 3rd District, Dennis Pizine,
Thank you very much.
the former motor officer with the mustache. All right. Good morning.
Inside story.
Councilman Harrietto for the department. This motion introduced by Councilman Buscaino was pretty much mirrored a request that the Board of Police Commissioners had made of the department just prior to his motion being introduced to report back on those same issues. That report is still in process. The board anticipates that it will be heard on February 19th, at which point the board will transmit that report to the committee for its consideration.
Okay. And included in that report, what we'll do is we'll go ahead then, and since we don't have that report, it's going to commission first. We'll go ahead and schedule it automatically right after commission hears it to come back to public safety for that first available meeting. I think it's critically important, but I would like to ensure that it includes year-to-date data and historical data on hit and runs as well. Going back 5 years would be sufficient. So I want to ensure that it includes that information as well as geographical information on where they're occurring. And if that report is also going to include arrests made after those hit and runs to show what successes we have in tracking these folks down. Make sure if that includes that. Mr. Zine.
Can we separate that into hit and run misdemeanor, hit and run felony?
I believe so, yes.
Great. And then so we'll go ahead and have that report come back. And so since we don't have the report, it's not ready, they're working on it, we'll keep it here in committee. It'll come back right after it goes to the Board of Police Commissioners to bring here, and then we'll bring it to council. With that and not having that report, and I understand the process and respect it, Eric, would you like to still make a comment? Yes. Please. Great. Thank you. If you could just state your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Eric Bruins, and I'm the Planning and Policy Director with the LA County Bicycle Coalition. And I first want to really thank you both for taking up this really important issue. This is consistently one of the top issues we hear from our members and top concerns about what's going on in the streets. One friendly suggestion is that there's currently legislation pending in Sacramento to deal with hit and run from Assemblymember Gatto's office dealing with statute of limitations issues, because currently the statute of limitations expires 3 years after the date of the incident. So if you wait out 3 years, you would get off scot-free, and so the proposal is to start the clock at the date of identification rather than the date of the incident, which seems kind of common sense. And there's also potential to enhance some penalties, deal with license revocation, and those types of issues. And so I guess what I would ask is that the report that's being prepared also basically includes suggestions for tools that LAPD could use, additional tools from Sacramento, so that way this report can inform the legislative actions that are going on in the Capitol. So, thank you.
Right. Excellent, thank you. And we'll go ahead and, based on the speaker's comments, amend our request, if we could, to include that information. As well as we'll be submitting from my office a resolution supporting those recommendations from the legislature. So if you can share that information, we'll get you a copy of the resolution. It's either going to be turned in as soon as today or as soon as Tuesday. So they're working on that now.
Mr. Chair, another item that the department can probably look into is while the investigation takes place in the field with the collision investigation officer, there's a follow-up with the detectives from the 4 traffic divisions. How are those divisions staffed as far as the detectives doing the follow-up? Do they have adequate personnel to do the follow-up? Because you get a crime report, a traffic report, an incident, a hit and run, and if there's no one doing the follow-up, it doesn't really go anywhere. So the issue is how many folks do we have within those investigative sections of the 4 traffic divisions? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. One of the other things in the resolution, just to give you an update on it, it will include recommendations here locally that we amend some of our current policies as well, such as, and things we're looking at for the resolution, will be a mandatory 30-day hold, no matter what, on that vehicle, on any hit and run, things like that. So we're looking at that as well. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Zine. All right, we'll go ahead and take item 4.
Item 4, Board of Police Commissioners report and CO report relative to the fiscal year 2012-13 Selective Traffic Enforcement Program Grant Award in the amount of $1 million from the California Office of Traffic Safety for use by LAPD for the period October 1st, 2012 through September 30, 2013.
Great, good morning.
Good morning. Anne Marie Sauer with the CAO. The department is requesting authority to apply for and retroactively accept a $1 million grant for the Selective Traffic Enforcement Program, the STEP program, which basically will provide $1 million for, in total, it's broken down by sworn overtime, travel, and then some supplies to deal with distracted driving, including driving under the influence, enforcement and prevention, motorcycle safety, and primary collision factor enforcement. And the department is here as well for additional information.
Terrific. And if we could hear from the department what some of the new strategies or innovative technologies we might be utilizing outside of what we're currently doing to reduce these fatalities and ramping up and enhancing our DUI task force, and what are some of the things that we'll be doing, perhaps talking about court stings and stakeouts and all the other things I know the department's been looking at. Good morning.
Good morning. Lieutenant Ron Katona, Los Angeles Police Department, Emergency Operations Division, Traffic Coordination Section. I can say at least as far as this grant's concerned, what we're going to be planning on doing is conducting over 70 DUI saturation patrols. And that basically consists of 1 supervisor and 6 or 7 officers saturating an area that we've determined have a high probability of DUI-related traffic collisions or arrests. Excuse me. Also in this grant, we have funds for 73 primary collision factor details, which includes increased enforcement for speed, pedestrian, and right-of-way violations. And that too consists of 1 sergeant, 6 officers, usually motor officers. We're going to be able to run 62 distracted driver details, and those details basically involve, as it stated, the distracted driving, so people on cell phones, people texting, things of that nature. And again, it's usually 1 sergeant and 6 officers. We're going to be able to run 12 motorcycle details, safety details, and they're basically targeting motorcycle-related violations. And we're also going to be able to participate in 12 multi-agency avoid checkpoints that's required of the grant that we assist with other law enforcement agencies. In and above that, we've already received a grant from the Office of Traffic Safety for sobriety checkpoints. For the federal fiscal year, we're going to conduct a total of 160 DUI checkpoints throughout the city. And I believe DUIs, TCs are down 17% between 2012 2011, and we strongly believe that it's based on the fact that we are increasing our enforcement efforts on DUIs and increasing the number of DUI checkpoints that we're conducting.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. A couple questions on that. I know in the report we've got the 2011 numbers, not the 2012 numbers. Are those available yet?
2012 numbers for
deaths and personal injury?
Yeah, DUI traffic collisions decreased 17% from 2,459 2011 to 2,040 2012. Fatal and serious injury traffic collisions have decreased 1% from 1,077 in 2011 to 1,064 in 2012.
Oh, that's a different report. Okay, I got the summary report, didn't have it on the face sheet. And then on that as well, on the injuries, I've got a question on that. As an example, there were 17,527 in 2011 on injuries. Do you have a category of critical? Is it broken out? What types of injuries are critical versus non-critical?
I'm not sure what issue we're discussing in terms of critical as opposed to the grant.
On personal injuries, we just break out the type of incidents resulting from traffic-related collisions in the city. And I'm just curious if we have any further information on the types of injuries, if they're...
No, that was...
And on the actual number of deaths, if those critical injuries, for example, a month or two later end up resulting in a death, is that recategorized or followed up, or is it just on-scene death? Is it pronounced that those that are pronounced that day, or how does that capture?
To be frank with you, Councilman, the report, the information you're referring to is coming from the CAO's report, and I didn't have an opportunity to review that in its entirety.
No problem. So what we'll do then is, could you submit that information, if you can obtain it, to my office? There's no need to hold the grant up, and I'd like to move it on to council.
Right. We just base it on their report.
Sure, absolutely. But if you can share that information prior to this coming to council, but with my office, so that way we don't have to bring it into, we can bring it into council, but we don't have to call it special if need be, if we can get the information prior.
Okay.
That'd be great. And we appreciate everything you're doing out there. It's one of the most important functions of LAPD, and a lot of people take it for granted. And you see all the glorification of all the other types of crimes and incidents that our officers are responding to, but Mr. Zine and I participated yesterday in the first ever traffic officers memorial that they put up and at Valley Traffic, and honoring the 7 Valley Traffic officers, traffic officers in the city that were killed in the line of duty. And at first it was an incredible event, but more importantly, and the families that came out talking about the fact that these guys really do an incredible job, and it's very difficult, and what they get to see and what they have to deal with in terms of these types of accidents, where they've just seeing babies and infants and children, grandparents in these types of collisions and incidents, and it's heart-wrenching that they've got to then move on and perhaps have notification to those families and go on to get back on their bikes and keep doing it. There's nothing routine about the job, and so this is a critical grant, and we ask that you use it wisely, and can continue doing such a great job for the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from Mr. Zine?
A couple of questions.
Before we, I'm sorry, we're also joined by our...
Direct from San Pedro.
Direct from San Pedro, all the way from San Pedro. Joe Buscaino, who we're going to get on a motorcycle before the end of this year as well. So, Mr. Zine.
Thank you. Just a couple questions. Is this going to be distributed with the 4 traffic divisions, or is it used on the criteria for the distribution of the funds?
It's going to be a balance of both. A portion of it's going to be distributed to the traffic commanding officers to provide oversight, and then the other portion will be directly administered by Emergency Operations Division.
Okay, and then the issue of 2012, October 1st, 2012. Have we started the program?
Yes, we've already run some details.
Okay. And the issue of deployment, will it be restricted to traffic division personnel, motorcycle CI personnel? Will patrol be able to participate at all, or is it just strictly traffic?
Almost all of it is going to the traffic divisions and traffic division personnel.
And that it will be strictly overtime for the personnel involved in it, cash overtime?
Yes.
Okay. Which is obviously a rarity right now in the city operations. That OTS has a lot of grants, and OTS is a great entity within the state to distribute those funds. The other question I have is $10,580 for travel. When we're doing enforcement, I understand that trained, experienced personnel. I understand they want to buy some computers, cameras, and supplies. But what are they going to use $10,580 in travel for if we're doing local enforcement within the city of Los Angeles? What is $10,580 in travel for?
There's a Governor's Highway Safety Association Lifesavers Conference that's going to take place to discuss traffic safety issues, DUI, and whatnot. And there's also a vehicular homicide course that's available, and the money is going to go towards sending department personnel to those functions.
Okay, so the travel is going to be utilized to further educate the folks working traffic?
For our department, yes.
Okay. And where's the Governor's Conference going to be?
I believe it's in San Diego.
Okay. So we'll send LAPD personnel, traffic personnel to those?
I believe it's going to require a staff level officer to go to that to represent the department.
Okay. Because I remember when I was working Valley Traffic, we attended a lot of those conferences. OTS paid for it, and it was a wonderful program to enhance the knowledge, a lot of seminars, et cetera.
Mr. Zine took a lot of those junkets as well, so
that's okay.
I just think when we're talking about the dollars, we want to make sure that it's going for the right purpose for the education of the folks to better enhance their ability to do their job. Sure. And as Mr. Englander said, this yesterday with Valley Traffic, if you get a chance to go out there, they have a memorial that they put inside the traffic division, which is a very unique memorial to the 7 motor officers who perished in the last number of years. It's really a high impactful thing. So we were able to participate. It's really worth going out and seeing.
And all kidding aside, those conferences are critically important because you're learning best practices, all the new laws coming forth, new technologies, and I know that after almost every single one of those, people come back from the department with all kinds of suggestions and recommendations, and so it's great. I appreciate it. Mr. Buscaino. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll go ahead and move that item as well. And since we have a quorum, we'll go ahead and what we did earlier, and now we'll make it official as part of the full committee, is on moved items 1, 2, 3, and 6 on consent. We continued items 5, 9, and 10. 1, 2, and 3 had CAO reports. We adopted those reports as well.
No objection.
And seeing no objection to those, we have one more item, item 7. Before we jump into item 7, we were waiting for a quorum for public comment, and if we can have Mr. Weiss come up now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Zine, Mr. Buscaino, good morning. Good morning. I'm here, committee members, to talk about the 25 million gallons of butane stored in 2 12.5 million gallon tanks at Rancho. I think the people of San Pedro, the people of LA, confront this risk. Mr. Buscaino has introduced 4 motions. They're all study motions. 1, to inquire about Rancho's insurance. 2, to redraw the boundaries to see whether or not the facility can be brought within the boundaries of the port so we can get a risk analysis. 3, how we can use land use laws in order to try to protect the people better. And 4, a general study motion where there was a hearing by this committee back in June. There was a report back supposedly by Mr. Miller. That was in July. We haven't heard anything. I think that my request is that we, and all these motions have been signed to different committees, which tend to dilute as well as delay the confrontation resolution of this. My request to the committee, and Mr. Buscaino is the mover of these motions, is to basically have all four motions consolidated under Rule 54, brought before the City Council, since they're study motions anyway, and begin to move the process forward. I think it's an unacceptable risk for the community, for the city. We have a controller candidate here, Mr. Zine, who the controller has subpoena power. Actually, the City Council, this committee, has subpoena power to try to get Rancho's insurance policies. And I think nobody on this committee believes in socialism, I think. And I think what we're talking about here is really socializing this risk. Risk of loss on the community. We got the port basically allowing a rail spur permit. That needs to be examined. Is that appropriate conduct? I mean, these are objective, these are fair, these are reasonable questions that our public officials should ask in order so that they can make policy, because the goal eventually here is to get a better risk management law regardless. But in order to do that, you need the facts. In order to get those facts, we need to basically move these motions forward. I think Rule 54 is appropriate here, and since they're just study motions anyway, the sooner the better, and I appreciate the committee's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the legal counsel and advice. Appreciate you coming out this morning. Appreciate it. With that, that'll conclude public comment, and that'll conclude the Public Safety Committee meeting.
Number 7.
You had another item?
Oh, you want to hear number 7?
Let's do it.
I thought we were going to do it, unless you want to continue it.
No, number 7. That's right.
Item 7 is a report relative to a $1,096,000 grant, Fire Facilities Phase 2 renovation program to be funded by Proposition F, Fire Facilities General Obligation Bond Funds.
Morning. See, I almost let you slip out.
Don't let it slip by.
Morning.
Good morning. Maria Cardenas with the CAO's office. As you know, Proposition F, which was approved by the voters in 2000, authorized the funding of 20 new facilities. 19 of those facilities have been completed. We're working on the last one. It's almost done. As a result of interest earnings and project savings, the City Council was able to authorize 2 additional fire stations through Proposition F.
Wow.
Fire Station 7 and 39, those are both in design and acquisition. It is expected that the bond program will have additional savings. At this point, we have $1 million in savings. The Administrative Oversight Committee took action in September to authorize a capital repair program at 45 fire facilities. The list was developed jointly by the Fire Department and the General Services Building Maintenance Division.
Those are going to include the roofs?
Yeah.
That were brought up in the last budget deliberation?
We had roofs in the Proposition Q list. I don't believe there's any roofs on the F list.
Because there were requests from the Fire Department during the last budget process when we approved the 11-12 budget, and the discussion during the budget process at that time was that there were certain roofs at fire stations that needed repair, and that there were some savings in the bonds that could go towards that. Has that been looked at?
Under the Proposition Q, we did quite a few roofs, and all the ones that were identified that were leaking, that had problems, were taken care of under the Proposition Q. At the present time, as far as fire facilities, we're not looking that we have any roofs that need replacement at this time.
So we're caught up on it.
Yes, sir.
So with this is a bond that was passed when by the voters?
In 2000.
In 2000.
Yes.
And since then, we built 2 additional fire stations that were not part of the original proposed bond.
They haven't been built. They've been authorized.
But
One
we have
is in land acquisition and one is in design.
We have the funding for
Yes.
them under this. And where did all that extra money come from?
Project savings and interest earnings.
Wow.
It's amazing.
So the city actually was able to create efficiencies and dedicate these funds in the trust account where they built additional stations that weren't part of. And did the money any of this money ever get swept away to other programs, or was it always just dedicated specifically for these?
It's dedicated to the projects that are listed in the ballot measure. It is used to fund only those projects. Projects can only be added by the mayor and the council, which is why this program comes here. So the administrative oversight committees, the citizen oversight committees cannot add projects unless...
So we had a citizens oversight committee as well as an administrative oversight committee that controlled these funds?
Yes.
Are these funds audited?
Yes.
Yes. And is it a third-party outside audit that conducts
I
these
believe
as well?
so, through the controller's office.
So we've got, this is a great model in moving forward, and we've got to tell the story that we've been able to create these efficiencies through bond efforts, and
Right.
keep
Right.
the money
We
away
also
from
built, through the library
sticky fingers.
oversight program, we built 4 additional branch libraries. Through Proposition Q, where we have 4 additional projects, a huge project at the Police Academy, a new police station for Metropolitan Division, and Northeast Police Station.
Can you,
Same thing through the Animal Services Bond Program.
can I recommend can you put together a one-page fact sheet of everything you just said on these bonds and the fact that we've got these 4 libraries and 2 fire stations and how this has worked so well that these funds went into this specific types of trust accounts with the administrative and citizens oversight committees and prepare that document for council when this comes forward as well as part of it?
Yes, we can.
That'd be great, because I think it's a story we've got to tell, and people have to hear that when they vote on these kinds of bonds, this is a great update on Prop F. Mr. Buscaino.
I can't agree with you more, Mr. Chair. What was a collection mechanism used for the Proposition F?
I'm sorry.
What was a collection mechanism? How do we fund these projects?
These are voter-approved general obligation bonds that are paid through property taxes.
Okay. And do you recall what was the average?
I'd have to look at the ballot measure.
Okay.
I don't recall.
I just want to commend the program and the oversight committee and the fire department in ensuring that these projects are completed on time, under budget, and knowing that we had a surplus, that we've authorized 2 additional fire stations is incredible. So I want to commend the effort and the team and the city family for moving forward and ensuring that these tax dollars are maintained and these programs and the fire stations are well maintained for our firefighters. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This approach to managing the bond programs was a result of, response to the citizens of LA, back in the 90s, and over disappointment that not all of the projects were listed in ballot measures, that there wasn't an oversight committee, that we didn't have a team approach to managing projects and responsibility to BOE. So we're at the end of a lot of those programs that were approved in 2002, and we have done, I think, a good job in the city.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Zine.
Well, I'd like to add one. There's a fire station on Fallbrook south of Victory. I think it's 105.
Yes, sir.
They have a rescue unit that is not able to fit inside the station, and it sits out in the elements day and night. If they could do something for that, I don't know if they've looked into that, but I feel bad for that ambulance.
It's on this list.
It is?
Yes, that we have a covering for Rescue 105, and we've also included a electrical outlet so that the next rescue that's ordered will have an onboard air conditioner that they will be able to keep the medications cool at all times, and then plus have the covering. And it is on this list that you're going to.
We've worked on it for a long time. I didn't see it, but I'm glad it's there. Thank you.
Let me ask you this. Instead of perhaps rushing a report, because it all relates to not just Prop F facilities, but more of a comprehensive report on all the successes of those public safety bond initiatives, library as well as animal shelters. Is this a time sensitive? Does this have to come to council in the next couple weeks, or is it? I'd like to give you a little more time to put together a comprehensive report for the council to share with them.
If I could suggest that we could have 2 recommendations. One is to move this report forward so that we can get started on the program, and we can prepare that report within 30 to 60 days so that we can get input from all of the project managers.
Why don't we go ahead and do that then? We'll take that recommendation, bring them both forward on 2 different timelines, and then we'll say 60 days.
Thank you.
And if we need to extend that a little bit, we can. But I think it's important to get that in front of the council and share with the public what we've been doing with the public's money, and particularly when we ask for general obligation bonds and tell the story. So really, truly appreciate it. Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That will then, in fact, conclude now the meeting of the Public Safety Committee. Thank you.